Hello, my crafty friends. So you got a spindle. Now what do you do? This is the spindle that was in the kit that several of you have bought from me and that we're going to use when we do the hangout. This is the exact same spindle. I made one for me, just like those. And it looks like this. And you'll notice I've got a bunch of spindles here and none of them look exactly like this. And a spindle can look like almost anything. It could be made out of a lot of different things. These two were purchased. Um, this one at a spinning store, and when I was in Albuquerque they had a spinning and weaving store. I don't think it's there anymore, but that's where I got this one. This one I bought off of eBay. It's really pretty, isn't it? I bought it for my daughter and she thought it was lovely, but she didn't enjoy spinning on it, so we traded. I gave her a different one and she gave me this one. This one a friend made for me and she varnished it real pretty and put beads on it. Isn't that pretty? This one I made because I was just in the mood to see what I could do with some squares and make a steampunk spindle. And this one, it was flat at the bottom, like this one, because that's the way I was making them back then. And a little while ago, I figured out this one would actually fit in a pencil sharpener, and so I sharpened it in the pencil sharpener, and I haven't restained it at the bottom. But this one is flat on the bottom. This one is flat on the bottom. This one I made and this was a hardwood. I don't know what kind of hardwood. It was just in a package of hardwood dowel rods and a bracelet and some sculpty clay and beads. So I didn't do anything to this once I put it together. The way I did this one was with these. And you can find these at Dollar Tree. They're furniture scratch markers. And I don't know which one I did I think it's the lightest one. That's how I stained this, was with these three different colors. Let's see if it's just like that. And then I waxed it with some beeswax and a heat gun. So you can do that. So we've got this. This one this is a Jelligan. It's a Scottish spindle, and we actually used a big dowel rod and we used a lathe, and I think it's a lathe, not a lathe, a planer, and carved it down. Okay, that was a great plan, and if it had been made out of pine it would have been easy, but it was oak and it was very hard. Very hard to do, but we got it done. And this one's just waxed as well. I was just showing you those so you could see that there are a lot of different ways that you can decorate them if you want to. And I think you've got a spindle where the class isn't going to start yet, so you might as well decorate it. Let me put these away. And this one has had a little bit of sanding, but not too much. I am going to go ahead and trim this down. Back when I was making these, I didn't do that, but I really like it better done that way now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's not that hard. If you have an X-Acto knife, you can do it. You don't have to have wood carving tools. But don't feel like you have to do this. You can leave it just like that. I've done a lot of spinning on spindles that were not carved down to a point down here. And it wouldn't even have to be a point. You could just take it in some, because it's a little easier for you to spin with your fingers if it's not as wide, which is the reason for, for doing this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of look at it from the bottom to see where you're at. I don't know if you can tell, but that's not bad. So now I'm just gonna take some sandpaper and just twist it in the sandpaper, and that'll start to smooth it down some more. I need it. This is ridiculous to try and do it with that big old piece, but see, that's pretty good actually, and that didn't take but a minute. You can do it like this, so you can see what you're doing if you want to. And if you want to take the point down smaller, you can do that this way, where you can kind of watch it. And that did bring the point down some. This is not wood crafting at its finest. It's just getting it where it's a little bit easier for you to flick. Okay, now that I've got that done, you can paint it. I've seen them on Etsy and on eBay where people have painted them just with acrylic paint, and then they, you know, sealed them and sold them like that. I've seen them where they painted flowers on them, or they just stripes, or they just painted them a solid color. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Let me wipe this off a little bit. It's got sand, sawdust on it a little. I'm just gonna do this one kind of like I did that other one, because it's easy and fast, and it looks really good for how little effort you have to put into it. And I want you to see how easy it is. For $1, you can go buy these markers and decorate your spindle where it looks, you know, looks like somebody did worked hard on it. And it just takes a few minutes. And you don't have to decorate it at all. I have quite a few I spin on that I haven't done anything to. I made them and then I started spinning on them. So it's not imperative that you decorate it, but you might want to. And so I decided to show you some ways that you could. I'm gonna just do the staining with the marker on this one. The one bad thing is I've glued these together with glue gun, and so that where it got glued together, it's not going to look all that great. And it, of course, you just don't look at that part, right? Not many people turn their spindles upside down and look at them from the bottom side anyway, so. You might buy a couple of packages if you want to just do it one color, because it takes uses a lot of marker. If you don't mind doing it 2 colors or 3 colors, like I did that one steampunk when I used one color for this part, and then I used a different color on one of the squares, and then the square that I offset from that, I used the 3rd color. Well, this looks fine because I've already done some other stuff with this, and it looks like it's probably going to go ahead and cover okay. And the dowel rods sometimes take stain differently from the wheel. I noticed when I just waxed the one I did for Mary, I didn't stain it, I just waxed it. And the wheel itself was a different color than the dowel rod, even though all I did was put wax on it. And that just comes from being, you know, a different piece of wood. Now you have to go over this a couple of times if you want it to be really smooth. Um, but you can do that. You just go over it again till you get it till it looks like you want it to look. If you don't want the smell of the varnish and stuff, this and beeswax is a pretty easy way to finish one. Getting down inside there is a little bit, takes a little bit of work, but it's not that bad. Especially if you're not worried about protecting your marker and you don't mind if this is the last time you use this marker. Okay. That doesn't look bad for about 10 minutes work. Now then you can do something else to decorate up here, or you can just wax it. And I'm not really a, I was trying to think if I even have any beads that I could put up there. If you've got some heavy beads, that would make it a little heavier, which makes it easier as a beginner spinner. But when you start spinning thinner and thinner yarns, if it gets too heavy, it's harder to spin thin yarns on. So, of course, you can just make another one. These are easy to make. I've already got a video on how to put one together, so that's not a big deal. But this was my quick little hint for how to decorate it. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to wax it, just because if you've got some beeswax, if you don't have beeswax, you can just use a candle. I'm just rubbing wax all over it. And don't worry if it looks rough, and because you're going to melt it, and then the wax it'll soak in and get smoother. And I'm just going ahead and waxing the whole thing at first. You don't have to. You can do a little bit at a time. But I'm just going to go ahead and run my wax all over it. And sometimes you have to do 2 or 3 layers. Just depends on what you want. And you can see how it's coming off really white and unsightly, but I promise you that will change. I don't know if if a hairdryer gets hot enough to melt this, but I would think it would. Okay. Now then, we're just going to take the heat gun Remove that. And you just heat it up. You can see it when it melts. It gets shiny. This is where you just need to do a little bit at a time, and then you just kind of rub it in. Don't do it too long, because if the stick gets really hot, then depends on how tender your hands are. If you have mom hands, as my kids say, it won't be a problem. That takes a little work to rub it in there. You have to do it several times. Now it's got wax all over my hand. I think I was a little generous with the wax this time. You do want to rub it in, though, because if you don't, it'll be harder to use. And it's okay if it's a little sticky. You don't want it really, really sticky. But if it's a little sticky, it'll hold on to your yarn good, and that's a nice thing. All right, let's work on this part. Yeah, I think I put too much wax. Which is not a big deal. You just have to do it several times. Actually, that was perfect for up there. Okay. Now, if you get it on here and it feels like it's too sticky for you, after it cools down really good, you could sand it a little bit, and that will cut back on that. But I'm happy with that. So there's my spindle. That's what you do to make it pretty. Of course, you can, like I said, you can do anything you want to it. Those of you who are in my Facebook group, I would love it if you would post pictures of how you decorate yours. Why don't you go ahead and do that? My next video will be about beginning drafting. Oh, let me show you one other thing you need to do when you first get your spindle, in case you decide you don't want to decorate yours. You need to put some kind of a yarn leader on it. After you've been spinning a while, you can make your own leader with the wool as you go, but before that, you need to put some kind of yarn leader on it. There are lots of different yarns you could use. Most people have a yarn. If you crochet, you probably have some of this. This is just cotton crochet yarn, and it will work. One thing though, it has a lot to do with how thick you start out spinning, how thick your leader is. So that's really a little thicker than I would use, but if it's what you got, it works fine. This is a weaving yarn. It's a hemp, and it's really fine. And I think that one's probably a little bit smaller than I would want to put on it. I wouldn't put thread on it. This is a cotton linen type yarn, and it's kind of in between those two, and so that's what I'm going to use. And you want about a yard of it, because you want it to be about this long, and just fold it in half and tie a knot in it like that. Now I don't want that. I know I've got some scissors somewhere. Wait there, I think I saw them. You don't want a really long tail on it, so cut that off. Let me get a little closer here so you can see how I do this. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take the loop, you can put it underneath like this, and then you're going to pull, no, you're going to do it the opposite way. No, I was right. Sorry. No. Okay. Pretend I didn't go through all those gyrations. You're going to take the end with the loop, and you're going to put it over this, and then pull this through like that. And then you're going to take this, and you're going to put it like that and pull this back through it. That way you've got a double lark's head. Okay, that was not how that was supposed to turn out. Just a second. I did something wrong. Okay. You can see how this will slide. You need it to be there you go. You need it to tighten up, and it won't tighten up unless it's going two different directions. So do it one direction and then go back in and do it the opposite direction. Then you've got your leader yarn. And this is what you're going to use to start spinning. You'll put it up here, and you'll put your wool through this, and then you'll spin. And this builds up the twist, and then it'll go past this into your wool, and that's how you'll start spinning. Once you do that and you put some wool in there, the twist will go right up. As soon as I let go, it'll go right up into that wool. I'm going to untwist it for now. But anyway, once you've got it decorated and you have your leader on there, then we'll be ready to spin. So go play and get it all pretty. And then the next video we'll start learning about drafting. God bless you. See you in a little bit.